In Acceptable Loss, the pressure is really on Rathbone this time.
Yes, it is.
Do you sort of think it's time for Rathbone, or do you think the story is this and therefore it's going to require this character?
The story is this, therefore it has to be Rathbone. Monk wouldn't have found himself in this particular situation, nor would he have reacted the same way. It has to be Rathbone, and I tighten the screws to the point where he has to face the situation. This is what I need to do, this is what is right. Is this an acceptable loss to bear in order to do it?
In talking about using bad ends towards good,
Yes.
bad means towards good end?
Well, there's the question, can the end ever justify the means? I don't think that the ends and the means can be separated.
No.
And I tend to feel, on the whole, if you pick up a bad means, you have already poisoned the ends. But life is not always as simple as that. There are times when, in order to achieve something that is very, very desirable, to stop intolerable suffering, you have to cause suffering somewhere else. And you have to make the judgment. Even not to make a decision is a decision.
Yes.
And that's something I've tried to deal with quite often. When you've got dreadful decisions to make, to back off and say, oh no, I can't. That is also a decision.
Yes.
It's a cowardly decision. And Rathbone is faced with some terrible problems. And of course you don't make the major decisions usually all at once. It's step by step by step.
Well, and sometimes you're given a very crucial decision to make at a point where you're at your lowest. I mean,
Yes.
his marriage has just broken up.
Yes, it
And
has.
I think this is the first failed marriage that we've really focused on with
Yes,
the
it
book.
is. It's the first main character's failed marriage. And I thought, is this too harsh? And I thought, come on, you can't always wrap up everything. Lots of relationships are ho-hum, and lots of relationships do fall apart. I reached the point where I thought, come on, this is how the characters would behave. They're faced with these appalling decisions. This is what they would reasonably do. Have the guts to deal with it.
Well, I suppose, yes. It must be a funny balance to strike, to have your characters serve the story, but at the same time behave like people.
Yes.
And if your characters want to do something, to allow them to do
Well, as
that.
my agents tell me, sometimes you have to let your characters suffer.
Yes, well, there is that, but sometimes, if they want to run away with the story, that must be a different thing.
It is, but if that's what the story begs for, you have to go with it and then find a resolution in a different way.
Yes.
And I think Rathbone has to behave with all the courage that he can possibly screw up. I will. I mean, I've got other plans for him in the future, lots of plans. It'll end up okay in the end. But to make Margaret go back on herself, it would be completely unrealistic.
Oh, absolutely.
So they have to move forward and behave as I think real people would be. And we all know that not everything works out as it should. And if you set a pattern so that it always works out as it should, no matter how unlikely that is, I think you're deceiving the reader.
Well, yes.
And you're not being honest to yourself.
No, absolutely. And as a writer, you do have that responsibility to the reader, that you've got to be genuine with them.
Without readers, I'm nowhere.
Yes.
But I've got to do what else I think is the best I can.
Yes,
the honest
absolutely.
way. And if somebody gets into something that hurts like a whole lot, I'll get them through it.
Of course, yes. Well, there's always that hope. But
yes.
It feels really...
not
like
necessarily within this book.
No, indeed. Well, we're in a very uncomfortable position in this book because Margaret, of course, had a lovely friendship with Hester, who, so now things are quite strained. I don't think Hester approves of what she's doing.
No, but then life isn't always roses, is it?
No, absolutely. Well, as we'll find out.
Yes, but the roses will come again.
Indeed, they always do.